Hello! I am so pumped to share today's recipe. I did a little survey last week because I whipped up a batch of soup and I was like, is this too basic? Because I don't know. I don't know what people want. I need to probably do some more surveys. But broccoli cheddar soup. You guys, I am not sad about remaking this. What is it, 4 days after I made the first batch and it was gone in 2. We're real happy to be making another batch to share with you because it's super good. And so this is a recipe where we had to make it in culinary school. There's just some good basic principles with kind of like, I think we did ours with like making a roux. I can't remember the exact recipe. There's a lot of different ways to make this. There's ways you can make it gluten-free if you like that more, really thick, luscious. You can make it with milk and cream. This is going to be a little bit of a roux base, which is equal parts fat and flour. So I'm going to do butter. I'm going to saute some onions in the butter. And then once those get a little bit tender, I will sprinkle flour over that. And it'll be, I think I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons of butter. So I'll do 2 tablespoons of flour. So equal parts. Let that cook for about a minute. And then I add chicken stock. So the soup that I make is a little bit lighter in taste. It's not as heavy. And then good old evaporated milk is the creamy factor. And I did add just a little bit of cream to mine. I feel like you can do a little bit of this and it just adds kind of that velvet texture that a real good cream soup gives you without just a gut bomb of dairy. So anyways, it's really simple, but it's just stick to the bones, comfort, goodness. And honestly, both nights that we had this, we just had a bowl of soup. That was it. And that was all we had for dinner. I was so fully satisfied. It was great. So let's get started. I'm super excited. Broccoli cheddar soup. Hi, I'm trying a new angle. So butter is all melted and getting bubbly. I'm going to throw in my onions. This is 1 small onion that I have diced. If you don't love onions, you could leave this part out. I think it does give a nice flavor base. And if you're a little bit like, well, I don't like them because they're too chunky, just dice them really finely. Or just do a little bit less. So I used 1 small onion and I diced it pretty small, but not like super fine. But you could do half of it and still have the impact of that onion flavor. So this will go for a couple of minutes. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some flour over it and cook out that roux and then add my chicken stock. So it's 1 box of chicken stock. All the recipe details, as always, are listed underneath this video. There's a little description section. If you're on your iPhone, by the way, or any phone, if you're watching YouTube on that, there is a little tiny arrow on the right side, I believe it is. It just points down. That's all it is. But if you touch that, the information will drop down and the recipe's listed there. So all the details will be there. All right, be back in a bit. Okay, my onions are almost there, but I want to talk really quick because I like to not just make food, I also want to educate. So some people like have criticized me, like, you talk too much. I do talk a lot, but I love to pass on the knowledge of little things that help make things taste even better. So, a lot of times it's easy to rush, like, okay, the onions, I just want to get the thing made. And there are times for that. But if you're trying to make really good soup, part of the thing is letting flavors develop. So part of the cooking of these onions is you want to let them get nice and tender. As you're doing that, you're releasing some of the sweetness from the onion and you're helping develop the layers of flavor. So you're not trying to brown them, but you are trying to let them get wilted, soft, translucent, tender. Those are some of the words that kind of come up. But these are about ready to go. I have 2 tablespoons of flour measured here. I'm going to sprinkle that kind of evenly over that. And it's going to get what seems kind of dry and gummy. That's okay. This is what will thicken or help thicken your soup without adding gobs of cream. And you don't want, I use a rubber spatula, by the way, because I feel like it does a good job of scraping the bottom of the pan because you don't want that flour to burn, excuse me, but you do want to be able to like cook out the flour a little bit. So I'll let it go here for just a second. If you're gluten-free and you're like, I'm out, I can't make this because I do gluten-free. There are other ways you can do this. You can still do the butter and onions, but your thickening agent, you can make what's called a slurry, which is cornstarch and water. And I'll try to remember to make a little note in the bottom, or else just hit me up if you want to know how to do that. I can't remember the exact ratios, but you make cornstarch, you take cornstarch and cold water and you make like a little kind of milky substance looking thing. And then you're gonna add that to the liquid of your soup, and it's gonna help also thicken your soup. So this is good. You don't want it to get overly brown. I've got my chicken stock already opened, ready to go. This is going in, adding it slowly. You don't want to just splatter. Ow, it's hot, the steam. You don't want to splatter. And when you're doing like larger quantities of roux, it's really important to, roux is the fat flour combo. It's really important to whisk as you go, or else it can get lumpy, but this is not a lot, so I'm not super worried. If you wanted to make this vegetarian, just use vegetable stock here instead of chicken stock. So this goes in, and then, I'm gonna have to just take off camera for a second. My can of evaporated milk goes in. So, got my little, my mom used to call this the church key. I don't know why. But pop open both sides, probably so it'll pour evenly. I'm gonna add this in. So this is gonna make it nice and creamy, but without being like overly heavy. And so that goes in. I am gonna hold off on salt at this point. There's such a variety on chicken broth, and if you use salted butter, and then the cheese that you're gonna put in later, all those things have salt, or can have salt. And it really will make a difference for how much salt you add. So I will actually not be giving you a quantity of salt. I'm just gonna tell you salt to taste. This right here is dry mustard. I think it just gives it that little something. I don't have a measurement. I just am gonna do a nice pinch. Maybe 2, because that didn't feel like I got enough. That is super optional, but I like the dry mustard. It just kind of gives a little zing, just a little thing. I'm gonna turn my temperature up to high. By the way, all of that was cooking on medium heat. And then broccoli. So my broccoli will be going in carefully. And the amount of broccoli is a bit up to you. I mean, I would recommend, 4 to 6 cups of broccoli. You don't want to obviously have too much broccoli that it's not like in your liquid. This is a little more than I did last time, but I love the broccoli. I'm gonna be bringing this up to a boil, and then I will lower the heat to a simmer, which is like low to medium low, and let it cook till it's tender. The broccoli's tender for about probably 20 to 30 minutes. It just depends on your heat. But bring it up to that boil first, and that's gonna actually also help with the thickening. That flour and chicken stock, that combination needs to kind of bring to the boil to get it nice and thick. So this will come up to a boil, and then I have a few tips on adding the cheese. If you've ever had your soup separate or curdle when you've made this type of a soup, I'll tell you why. See you in a second. Hi. Okay, it's only been about 15, maybe 20 minutes. I was trying to pay attention to the time. But really, here's what you want to do. If you think, you can kind of tell, occasionally give that a stir. The broccoli starts to seem a little tender. So I just pull a piece up, stick a sharp knife in it, and if it just slides right in, you know that it's good. You don't want to really like overdo it, but you want it to be tender for sure. Now, a couple options. At this point, you can add your cheese and be done. You can also add a little bit of cream, which I'm gonna do because I had some left over. I'm kind of squatting down. And a couple pointers with this. Do not add ice cold cream to hot soup. Not gonna be good. This has been sitting out for probably 45 minutes, so it's good to go. It's about, gosh, that was maybe a 1/4 cup. Not much. You can also just heat your cream. Just put it in the microwave for 15, 20 seconds, whatever, just to take that shell off of it. That's just gonna give it that nice little extra, just kind of velvety texture. And here's one of my biggest pointers. Turn your heat off because my thing stays hot. I'm gonna move it I'll move it to the side so y'all can still see it. I've got all of my grated cheese. I really think that grating cheese by hand for this recipe is far superior. They do put different additives in some of the grated cheeses depending on the brand you buy. And it can, I don't know, I feel like it can just be a little bit artificial. So I think taking a block of cheese and spending the time to grate it is good. I've got Monterey Jack and cheddar. It's about probably 3 cups. And again, you can adjust. You don't have to do quite as much cheese if you want it to be a little lighter, but the biggest thing, do not add your cheese on the heat. take it off the heat and add it. If you add it on the heat while it's still bubbling, your cheese is going to curdle and separate. Maybe not right away, but later on you're like, why does my soup look all weird? You gotta let it get off the heat. That's a big, big pointer. And then I honestly just kind of let it sit there for a second. I don't really stir it, and let it just do its thing, melt in, and then give it a stir. And then test your soup, give it a taste, see how you need to adjust it. I always will do lots of pepper because I love the pepper in there. It gives it a little bit of a spice. But the salt, it's up for grabs because your cheese can be sometimes really salty. I really like sharp cheddar, by the way. I didn't mention that earlier. And then it was Jack because it's nice and melty. I love that. But I think sharp cheddar just has a little more punch of flavor. So that's just me. But you could do like a Colby Jack. You could do a, what's it called? Not jalapeno, but pepper jack. Could make it a name. You could do pepper jack if you want a little spice in your broccoli cheese soup. That'd be really good. So it's really up to you. But now it's basically ready to roll. I'll get some beauty shots of this to show you, and then we'll do a test taste. But this is it. And now I just gotta also let it kind of cool down a touch before I will be tasting it because it's gonna burn my tongue otherwise. But this is a really, really easy soup. And then you can throw it with just slice up some fresh pears or apples and dinner's ready. That's what we would do around here. So yum, cannot wait for you guys to make this. And I'll be excited to test it out just to let you know what I think. Okay, you guys, what I love is how creamy this is without being so like overwhelmingly like thick from cream and milk, which can just, for me, I need to be a little less dairy. So I can't wait. Here we go. I'm gonna need a minute. Oh, you guys, I'm gonna go back in. You're gonna get a little of the extra cheese. Ooh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Let me talk about this soup. The broccoli is tender. This has a little bit, I could have cooked it probably 5 more minutes. Has a little bit of a bite to it, like al dente, like pasta. But I like that because I don't like my broccoli being super mushy. And when you have it second day, it'll be even more tender and soft. It's creamy without being heavy because it's mostly chicken stock. So that was nice. But that extra cream, it does give that velvety thing. Anybody who is like, knows real milk versus like almond milk, it's just not the same. There is something about a real half and half that just has like a luxurious taste, or real cream. It just has this, you just can't imitate it. So anyways, that little bit, it's just like I said, it was like maybe a quarter cup. It was just a little bit, but it just gives it that nice little smoothing effect. I can taste the pepper. You can also jazz it up with a little bit spicier if you wanted to do maybe some cayenne. You could do that. The other thing I didn't talk about, if you like a more pureed soup, you can actually take this in batches, throw it in your blender, or if you have a hand blender, put that in the pot and give it some pulses, and you can puree it a little bit and do kind of a smooth and chunky effect. I cut my broccoli pretty small to be bite-sized pieces, so I don't do that. Just more, I don't know, more effort, but you can do that if you'd like. So that's totally an option for you. Also, don't forget the stems on the broccoli when you're cutting everything up. Cut those up kind of small and thin, and you can throw them in. They have a ton of flavor. They're really good. So anyways, you guys, this is going to be a mainstay going into the fall and winter. I can tell you right now. And you don't feel that bad about it because broccoli, chicken broth, chicken stock, it's pretty good. I mean, there's the cheese, of course, but anyways, thank you so much for watching. Delight of the Bite. Subscribe, share, tell your friends. Hit the like button if you liked what I showed you today, and check out my other videos. There's a lot of other content. I've been doing this for over 2 years now, and my aim is to help people feel like they can cook and give you lots of tips and little nuances that I learned when I went to culinary school, and just hopefully enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching. Also, Instagram, follow me over there at Delight of the Bite, and you can see more food content that I put out. So thank you so much. I will see you next week. Bye.